It's not sorry. It's not a big statement to say that 2017 was a great year for games, but goodness, I haven't had this much fun with video games in years. I don't know if I've mentioned this on my channel before, but I maintain a spreadsheet to keep a log of all the games I play in a given year. I've done this for 5 years, and 2017 is the year that I've played the most new games. I'm typically comically late to the party with a lot of games, but I really liked staying in the conversation this year. So, without getting too anecdotal, here are my top 5 games of 2017, not really in any order. Resident Evil is a franchise that has been around a very long time, but I've only played a few games in the series. RE4 is in my top 10 of all time list easy, and RE5 can kinda take a hike. Resident Evil 7, though, was such a breath of fresh air from the action-oriented direction the series was taking, and they did so by switching to a shooter perspective that is commonly associated with heavy action. That's awesome. The game mimics a part of RE4 that I adored, and it's the power arc your character experiences throughout the game. You spend the first couple hours in the game lurking through hallways of a beautifully rendered southern mansion with full knowledge of what is in your inventory. You carefully take your shots because you genuinely don't know if you have enough to chip away at one of the goo monster's limbs, or if you have enough to sink into a bullet sponge boss. But by the end of the game, you master the art of switching your weapons and optimizing your inventory slots. I understand some of the complaints people have about, maybe it's not that difficult, or maybe it's like too story driven, but man, I just had a blast playing this one. Okay, here we go. I thought Breath of the Wild was going to be a train wreck. I honest to God thought Nintendo was going to try their open air design concept and fall flat on their face. The promise of being able to go anywhere and do anything in a Zelda game sounded so far-fetched that I was sure it was going to be a lifeless open world with very limited things to do. While I'm not convinced the open world is active enough to achieve the realism factor that most open world games strive for, what saves this game and makes it one of the most fun games this year is the phrase I used earlier, open air. Playing as Link has never been as fun, and it's Hyrule's verticality and Link's traversal techniques that make controlling him a blast. Even though the world may be conveniently desolate, going from point A to B while getting distracted killed my free time in the best way possible. Open world games have a lot to learn from the freedom that Breath of the Wild gives you. This is probably the best game I played all year. I was excited to sit down with it each and every time. I should probably talk about this one more, but I'm kind of itching to talk about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I hated this game. I really hated this game. The note I took about this game on my spreadsheet was peer pressure, and that's about it. All of my friends were playing it, so I hopped in with them. Peer pressure is a bad thing, but low frame rates are even worse. PUBG is a very tactical battle royale Hunger Games game. I made a video in 2016 on an early access game called The Culling, and when I started to play PUBG, I wanted to go back to it because it didn't run like shit. If you have a bad computer, don't buy PUBG, but if you upgraded your computer this year for a VR headset you hardly wear, absolutely buy PUBG. Once you get past the game's performance and jank, it is one of the most intense multiplayer experiences I've ever had. The map is big enough and the guns are shooty enough to have each game you play be a new experience, and I think that's crucial for a multiplayer game in 2017. This is definitely a game to play with friends for hours on end trying to get a chicken dinner. Ugh. I guess this is where I talk about Mario, but I should really bring up how much I adored the Nintendo Switch this year. Like Zelda, I thought Nintendo would completely bomb with the Switch. Not only does the system have the "it just works" magic of its docking and undocking functionality, it has awesome software to keep me occupied on the couch or on the go. Games like Odyssey show why this is incredible. On top of it being an awesome AAA effort with great visuals and set pieces, Odyssey is one of the most dense time killers in the last decade. I beat the game with nearly 200 moons, and I'm at 550 right now, which means I'm just over a little halfway done with it. Fatigue has kind of sit in with this one for me, but good on you Nintendo for making a successor to Mario 64 that makes you fight yourself for most people's Game of the Year votes. Rounding out my list is a $5 gem on the Switch that I adore. Chevy is a solitaire-style card game that has you breeding sheep while letting some die due to apocalyptic scenarios. It's bizarre, and you can play it in 5-minute or 5-hour chunks. This one kept me occupied on a lot of plane rides. There's a story mode that has some hysterical drawings, and the rules are made even easier to learn with the game telling you what you can and can't do. If you go full crazy like I did and imported the physical card game and made a custom card mat, the Switch game solidifies the rules in your head. This way you can look super cool in your office's break room playing a sheep card game by yourself until you try to frantically explain the rules to your coworkers. Buy Chevy, I'm serious. It's a great game with great art. And I'm not doing my thing where I talk in a hyperbole about a dumb, cheap game. This is seriously fantastic. And that's it. 2017 may have been a dumpster fire for everything else in the world, but at least we had some good games to play to distract us from the impending nuclear war. Thanks, games. See you next year.